Hey everybody, I just wanted to show you a deck profile that I did here recently. I used it to win our store championship. We ended up doing 4 rounds and it did really well. So I know some people have been asking about it, so here it is. Okay, so first of all, we've got our babies here. They are all the same. Honestly, they weren't really used a whole lot. Sometimes they were. They could kind of sneak by and get some extra draw power from time to time. But again, Lordknightmon kind of does the trick. Yeah, let's just keep moving on here. Okay, so we are running a couple of tamers here. We have the Ty and Matt. And then we also, you get to see a kind of a different direction with this deck as opposed to other security controlled builds. Because we are running Sora and Joe. This helps out against a lot of, obviously, like bigger guys, and also it helps kind of fuel with, Zord defeat. And then over here, this kind of helps set some things up. We get some extra memory, and yeah, it was actually a really good card. Definitely would end up running another one in the main deck. So next up, we're just going to kind of go over the standard cards you'd expect to see in a security control deck. So I have 2 Holy Waves, mainly just meant to, keep you alive. Or, if you absolutely have to play them, it's helpful, but definitely not like 100%, I don't want to say need it, but it is a good card, and it had saved me a few different games. Okay. So we maxed out on all the saucy alternate arts here. So one of the main ideas of the deck is to continue to get back your resources in terms of your security. Yeah, it did that. Did it really well. There's a few times, and I'll get into it here in a minute, where I was concerned about possibly decking out. It's not impossible, especially since you're running, all of this stuff. The Lordknightmons, obviously, is just a good card. If your opponent is trying to keep you at 4, there are some cards that in this deck that will help out against that. When they try to punish you, this deck is actually meant to punish them back. So, again, we'll get to that momentarily. Only one of the alternate arts on this. But the Lordknightmon, I'm maxing out here. Again, typically with this deck, you are hitting that threshold of 10. So when you end up playing this, usually only costs 5, so it actually is almost better than Lordknightmon in almost every way. They can't hit it with lower cost things like if you're playing a mirror match, the Trident cards, it does the 6,000 damage. It doesn't do anything against him. So, all right. Attacking in just a random one of, we don't need it because we have the babies, but it does help in order to kind of search into the security that we do have. And then also getting set at 3 at the beginning is nice. I would run more of this, but at the same point, there's a lot of times where if you're running all these other colors, you can end up potentially killing yourself, and nobody wants to deal with that. So I actually steered away from the color red, and we focused on the colors that we can do a lot of work with in this. So again, it's primarily yellow and blue. So with the javelins, this deck does draw a lot of cards, and you'll see that here momentarily. But you're basically killing off pretty much everything. This is almost equivalent to a Gaia Force in most cases. In most other cases, it's pretty much a Gaia Force. So, and you also get your resource back. So like you play the card, you're going to basically net off of it, or you're not going to lose any resources off of it. Speaking of drawing cards, we have 3 Lordknightmon. The Inheritable really was barely relevant in this, but basically playing this or playing like a Lordknightmon on turn 1 is really nice. Didn't see this as much as I would have liked to. I definitely want to probably increase this just a little bit, because if they don't deal with this, then it turns into a potential threat later on, which comes in the form of Hexablemon. The jamming effect really wasn't super relevant at all times, but it was nice. And then the other big part about this is just basically getting rid of the resources and stopping your opponent from attacking. In one of my matches, it was actually a security control matchup. This pretty much just stopped them from doing anything. So that was really nice. I didn't run into a whole lot of well, rookie rush or anything like that, but it would have helped against them as long as they didn't get the masquerade going. So here's some fun tech cards. Grace Cross Freezer. A lot of people don't even know what this card does, but basically, if you're playing against Rookie Rush or you're playing against decks that don't have sources under them, it's going to help protect you for a turn so that you can kind of swing back later on. So next up we have a couple copies of the Ray of Victory. Basically bounce one of their guys back to their hand. And then if you happen to have the Tamer, obviously you can unstand, or you can unsuspend something. There was actually a really funny situation with this in which the Ray of Victory won me a game, and I was using Zort Defeat with it. So the Ray of Victory got there with defeat. All right, and this next card is actually probably one of my favorite cards in this deck, and probably the whole reason I even wanted to go into blue. Absolute Blast. This card, I had an absolute blast with it. Obviously, pun intended. So basically, this is clearing out the threatening cards. Like if they get a Zwart off of the security, you can just pop it back down to the bottom of their deck. If people are running Dandevimons, again, put them to the bottom of the deck. Anything that's a threat, this basically is just a hard removal, but it's for 6. So very similar to, the Javelins I mentioned earlier, except this, you don't have to deal with a threat and they don't activate their on-deletion effects. So 9, I would say actually probably 10 times out of 10, this is actually going to put something to the bottom. But it can do some neat things too. Potentially, depending on how it works, you could get rid of a much needed resource. But I mean, it has to be the bottom Digivolution source, so there's that. I ran a couple copies of Kakai's Breath. It's just another form of removal. It was nice. I don't know that I would actually want to keep those in, or at least keep both of them in. Now we're starting to get into some of the more tech cards here. A couple Dandevimons. These cards are amazing because basically what you can do with this is you can just plop it down the board. If they start swinging at you, you're getting rid of their security, and then if they kill it, they're wasting a card in their hand most likely, and then you're taking 2 more cards out of their hand on top of that. So the card's super helpful. They'll leave it on the board, which allows you to play some of the bigger guys, like the Zort Defeats. So you have the option to basically play this on top of him if they give you any problems with that. Yeah, it's actually really nice. So everything else you're about to see, these are some weird tech cards, but they each kind of had their own place and they were super helpful throughout the tournament. So we ran 3 copies. Sorry about the cameras, guys. All right, so we ran 3 copies of Bushiagamon. Obviously, the Magnadramon can play this, but you can also Digivolve this on top of the babies that I mentioned earlier. And then you can sneak and get an extra card. So that's kind of nice. But overall, it's really good. I would almost consider running 4 because, again, as long as you can get 5, you just play them down and you can potentially go in for game depending on their board situation. So Purge Shine, ran 1 copy of this. I probably would like to run between 2 to 3 in this deck because it draws a ton. Basically, if you can I know it sounds bad, guys, but if you can play 2 of these, you can pretty much wipe their board, or at least if it's a mid-range board, you know, where they're trying to go wide, like I said earlier. You know, I mean, obviously this is intended against Rookie Rush, but it can combo with the javelins as well, just to kind of, you know, finish off the job if you need to. But yeah, really good against Rookie Rush. And then also if you can, if you run multiples of this, which I was originally, you can potentially clear a slightly bigger board. Okay, so this is, again, another tech card, Aqua Viper. It was neat. Nothing like super amazing, but it is cool because you can take like your Zudamons, or your Lucimons, or even your Magnadramons and stuff like that, basically bounce them back to your hand if you're in a bind, and then you can get rid of some of their threats, at least temporarily, and then you can, as long as you have enough memory, you can play those cards again. So, you know, pay 3, put back a Zudo, and then play the Zudo again, draw another 2 cards. I mean, it's not horrible. Like you said, this isn't game breaking, but it is neat tech, and you're going to have a ton of cards in your hand. So this will literally allow you to basically just get whatever combos you need. And the last card, everyone said was a bad card. I still think it kind of is. But yeah, we ran it. I'll delete. You know, it is actually going to be pretty likely at some point you are going to have a Zord defeat on the board. Typically speaking, though, this was main decked just to combat Lordknightmon. So obviously, if you're using, they're trying to build up their board, trying to go wide against you, and you're sitting here like, what do I do? What do I do? Well, if the Hexablaumon's not holding off for long enough, you know, if you get into this card, because again, I mean, drawn tons, you can literally clear the board. And I was able to do that against the Lordknightmon player and completely turn the battle like around in my favor. I actually ended up 2-0ing the Lordknightmon player because of this card. But yeah, it completely wipes, you know, their tamers off the board. I killed at least 7, maybe 8 Digimon with it. And then the next turn, I just rebuilt my board with like Magnadramons and, you know, stuff from there. So, yeah. So overall, the deck itself, fan it out just a little bit for you guys. Overall, though, the deck worked really well. I had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, it did get me the win. My record was 3-0-1. My first game was against Lordknightmon. Basically ended up winning the first game. Second game, they almost decked out, but then they pulled out a win. So we ended up going into the third game. Practically ended up being a draw, but it was going definitely in my favor, which was cool. Second game was against the Black Blockers. I felt really bad for them because of the blue bouncing mechanics, and then also the javelins and stuff like that. And then third game was against another Lordknightmon deck. Like you said, I had 2-0'd the blocker deck, and then this one as well. And in the finals, it was a security control matchup. It was not a mirror matchup, though, because they were running the traditional, you know, red, black, yellow, and I was running the yellow, blue. Even though there were times where I thought I was going to deck myself out, I never did. And the absolute blasts were amazing. So I do apologize for the the format of this, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have the extra time to try to make this all fancy like I used to, but I did want to bring you guys some content, and hopefully you enjoyed. Any questions, please feel free to let me know. I would love to hear them in the comments. But, you know, hey, in the meantime, keep calm and game on. Bye, guys.